Her name was not always spoken as a warning. She was a princess, a daughter, a woman who looked at a stranger and chose him over everything she had ever known. That choice did not end well. What followed was not madness. It was not possession. It was not fate. It was a woman, brilliant, betrayed, and fully aware of what she was doing, deciding that the world which broke her deserved to feel it. The Greeks recorded what happened. They never agreed on what it meant. This is the story of Medea. Before the fear, there was a kingdom far east of Greece. On the far shore of the Black Sea stood Colchis. The Greeks knew of it the way men know of places they fear to visit, through rumor, through sailors' silence, through the particular unease of a land that did not follow familiar rules. This is where Medea was born. She carried the blood of Helios, the titan who pulled the sun across the sky each morning. In myth, divine blood does not arrive quietly. It amplifies everything it touches: ambition, grief, rage, the capacity to love without limit, and the capacity to destroy with the same force. She served Hecate, not the Olympians, not the gods of war and glory that Greek heroes prayed to. Hecate, goddess of crossroads, witchcraft, and the space between worlds. Her rites belonged to darkness, torches in silence, dogs howling at nothing, ceremonies performed at the edges of things, where the living world met something older. Medea learned what Hecate's priestesses learn: which herbs healed, which ones killed, how to move through a world most mortals could not survive. By the time she reached adulthood, she had become a weapon no one had yet thought to aim. Sailors who passed the shores of Colchis already spoke her name carefully, not because of what she had done, because of what they sensed she was capable of. That instinct was not wrong. She had not yet met Jason. The story had not yet begun to break, but somewhere across the sea, the Argo was already being built. The Argo arrived at Colchis the way trouble always arrives, without warning, and certain of itself, aboard it Jason, a prince with no kingdom, chasing a relic that wasn't his to take. Beside him, the greatest warriors Greece had assembled in a generation: Heracles, Orpheus, Castor, and Pollux, names that would outlast their owners by centuries. They had come for the Golden Fleece. King Aeetes already knew the fleece was not simply treasure. It hung in a sacred grove, watched by a serpent that never slept, and it held the authority of the kingdom itself. To surrender it was to surrender everything. So King Aeetes offered a bargain designed to be a death sentence: yoke 2 fire-breathing bulls with bronze hooves, plow a sacred field with them, sow it with dragon's teeth, seeds that would erupt from the earth. As armed soldiers, ready to kill whoever stood nearest, complete the task, and the fleece was Jason's. Aeetes expected a corpse by morning. What he did not account for was his daughter. Medea watched Jason the way people watch things they know will cost them, whether what she felt was love or fate wearing love's face. The myth does not clearly say. What it says is that she chose him. Under darkness she came to him with potions that would shield his skin from fire and bronze. She told him how to survive the earth-born soldiers, not by fighting them, but by throwing a stone among them, letting confusion do what no blade could. Jason completed the trials. Every victory was hers. When Aeetes refused to honor the bargain, as Medea knew he would, she led Jason into the sacred grove herself. She chanted the serpent into sleep. She stood in the dark while Jason took the fleece, and then she boarded the Argo. She left her father's kingdom behind, her title, her temples, the life Hecate had trained her for, all of it, surrendered for a man she had known for days. The myth records it as betrayal. Perhaps it was. Perhaps it was simply the first decision she made that belonged entirely to her. Either way, she would spend the rest of her life paying for it. They escaped Colchis. That is not the same as being free. Behind the Argo, King Aeetes had already launched his fleet, not to negotiate, not to demand, to take back what was his, the fleece, the honor of his throne, and the daughter who had made him a fool in front of the gods. The ships were faster than Jason had expected. The distance was closing. Among the pursuing fleet was Absyrtus, Medea's brother. The myth does not linger on what she felt when she saw his sails. It moves instead to what she did. She sent word to Absyrtus, a message designed to sound like surrender, an offer of meeting, of safety, of terms. He came. Jason was waiting. Absyrtus was killed. What followed was worse. Medea dismembered the body, cast the remains into the sea, piece by piece, knowing exactly what it would force her father's fleet to do. In the ancient world, a body scattered across open water could not be buried, could not be given the rites the dead required. The soul would wander. Aeetes' ships broke formation to gather what remained of his son. The Argo slipped into open sea. It worked. That is the part of the story that does not soften with retelling, not the act itself. Myth is full of violence, but the precision of it. Medea did not kill her brother in rage. She killed him in calculation, understanding the theology of grief well enough to turn it into a weapon. In Greek legend, kinslaying was not simply crime, it was contamination, a mark that no distance could dilute, no love could explain away. Word spread the way dark things spread, through ports, through sailors, through the particular silence that falls over a room when a name is spoken. Not the name of a princess, not the name of a priestess, something the Greek world did not yet have a word for. A woman whose love was real and whose love was dangerous, and who understood, somewhere beneath both of those things, that there was no longer any version of herself she could return to. Greece had heard the stories before Jason arrived to tell them. The Golden Fleece was real. The trials had been survived. The hero had returned, and beside him, the reason any of it had been possible. Iolcus looked at Medea the way cities look at things they do not have language for yet. Not with welcome, with the particular stillness that precedes fear. Jason's throne had been taken by King Peleus long before the Argo sailed. Reclaiming it required more than the fleece. It required removing the man who held it. Medea did not raise an army. She went to Peleus's daughters. What she offered them was the oldest desire in the world. That age could be reversed, that their father, old and fading, could be made young again. She demonstrated it before their eyes. An old animal cut apart, placed in a cauldron with her herbs, and restored. The daughters believed her. They loved their father. That was what she was counting on. Peleus did not survive the cauldron. Medea had not included the herbs that mattered. What strikes the myth here is not the act itself. It is the architecture of it. Medea did not kill Peleus. She constructed the conditions in which his own daughters did, out of love, out of hope, out of complete trust in her. Greece understood violence. This was something else. Iolcus did not celebrate Jason's return. It recoiled. The throne that had supposedly been reclaimed became uninhabitable. No city wanted to be ruled by a man whose power ran through a woman they could not contain. Jason and Medea were expelled, not for the first time, not for the last. They moved to Corinth, a city that would receive them for a while. In myth, a while is always long enough for everything to collapse. Corinth was the closest thing to peace Medea had known since Colchis. There were children now, a home, a city that tolerated them. Jason, still trading on the legend of the Golden Fleece, though the legend was aging faster than he was. And Medea, the woman who had dismembered her brother, deceived a king's daughters into killing their own father, making meals, raising sons, doing what exiles do when the running stops, trying to become ordinary. It was never going to hold. Corinth accepted Jason. Corinth tolerated Medea. Those are not the same thing. And in a city built on status and bloodline, the difference between them widens over time. She was foreign. She was strange. She carried a past that polite society preferred not to look at directly. Jason looked at it directly and decided it had become a liability. He told her about Gloss, daughter of King Creon, the way men announce decisions already made, not a question, an explanation. The marriage would bring stability, position, a future for their sons. It would be better for everyone, even somehow for Medea. Ancient retellings preserve his argument almost intact, which suggests the Greeks found it worth recording, perhaps as evidence, perhaps as warning, that a man can convince himself of almost anything when the alternative is guilt. Medea had left her homeland for this man, had killed her brother for this man, had dismembered the body and cast it into the sea, had deceived daughters into destroying their father, had followed him through exile after exile, carrying the weight of every irreversible thing she had done in the name of his survival. And he was explaining to her why this was actually fine. Then Creon moved, fearing what Medea might do. Correctly, the king ordered her expelled from Corinth. She had one day, take the children or leave them. Either way, go. Medea asked for one more day. Creon, moved by something he mistook for mercy, gave it to her. It was the last mistake he would make. She did not weep in public. She did not plead. She went quiet. And in Greek tragedy, the silence of a woman who has nothing left to lose is not the end of the story. It is the story gathering itself. She used the one day Creon gave her, all of it. The gifts she prepared for Glauce were beautiful. A robe, a golden crown, fit for a princess about to become a queen. Medea sent them with her children, which made them impossible to refuse. What Jason's bride received as reconciliation was something Medea had saturated with poison through knowledge no one else in Corinth possessed. Glauce put on the crown. She put on the robe. The ancient accounts do not spare the detail. The garments turned against her. She could not remove them. She could not escape what she was wearing. Creon ran to his daughter. He did not survive the attempt. In the space of one afternoon, Corinth's royal house was gone. And then Medea made the decision that Greek tragedy has never stopped returning to: her children. The myth is unsparing about her awareness. This was not a woman undone by grief, acting beyond the edges of her own understanding. She knew what she was doing. She knew what it would cost her. She understood with full clarity that Jason's children were Jason's future, the last remaining proof that his bloodline, his name, his legacy would survive what he had done. She removed that future when Jason came, and he came too late, as he had always arrived too late. There was nothing left to save. No bride, no king, no children, no future. Medea did not wait for him to speak. She was already gone, carried out of Corinth beyond his reach, leaving Jason standing in the wreckage of a life he had been certain he controlled. This is the moment Greek mythology crystallized around her. Not the sorcery, not the escape from Colchis. This, because what Medea demonstrated in Corinth was not that love could drive someone to destruction. That story was ancient before she was born. What she demonstrated was something the Greeks found far more difficult to contain: that a woman, betrayed and cornered and fully aware, could look at everything Jason valued and choose with open eyes to leave him nothing. Corinth expected judgment. What it got was a woman rising into the sky. The chariot of Helios, her grandfather, her blood, came for her as it came for no one else. Drawn by dragons through air that no army could follow, it carried Medea out of reach, while Jason stood below with nothing left to threaten her with. She looked down, the myth implies. She did not look away. No god struck her down. No king captured her. No divine court convened to weigh what she had done. The Greeks, who built an entire mythology around consequence, allowed Medea to escape it. That has troubled people ever since. She wandered after Corinth, Athens, Aegeus, the edges of other people's stories. Some versions eventually return her eastward, back toward the world that made her, which had not forgiven her either. The myth doesn't agree on where she ended. It rarely does with figures like her. Greek writers argued about Medea for centuries. Some made her a monster, proof of what happened when intelligence and rage were left in the hands of someone without restraint. Others made her a mirror, a woman abandoned, isolated and driven beyond endurance by a world that took everything she offered and returned contempt. Both versions are still being written. That is the nature of a myth that survives. It does not resolve. It keeps asking. What remains of Medea across all the versions is not the magic, not the murders. It is the question the Greeks could not answer and handed down to everyone who came after them. At what point does a person become? What was done to them? Medea never answered it. She just left. If you made it here, to the very end, then you already know you are not a casual listener. You stayed through the silence, through the weight of it, through a story that does not offer the comfort of a clean verdict. That means something. This is what Hollowscribe was built for. The myths that don't resolve neatly, the figures history couldn't quite categorize, the stories that stay with you longer than they should. If that is the kind of darkness you want to explore, you know what to do. Subscribe so the next story finds you. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think Medea was. Monster, survivor, both, neither. There is no wrong answer here, only honest ones. And if this video moved something in you, like it. It is a small thing that means more than you know for a channel just finding its voice. Medea's story was the first. There are many more waiting.